Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mia for those of you who don't know, and for those of you who are coming back, thank you for coming back. So today we're going to be talking about a more serious topic. As you can see, I am sitting down and we're gonna have a conversation about my SEH story. If you guys hear my baby, please disregard that. She's upstairs with her dad. So we're going to be talking about my SEH story. And the reason why I'm discussing this today is because I remember being diagnosed with my SEH at the hospital and coming home and looking for any positive stories that anybody may have had, or any women sharing their experiences. And there aren't many women sharing their stories. I found like a handful, maybe 2 positive stories at that time. And so I know that when you may be going through a certain situation and you're in the thick of it, it feels good to hear a positive story and know that somebody else went through the same thing that you're going through and has a positive outcome behind it. Yes, so that's why I'm making this video to help another woman and give them hope, that you can have a positive outcome. So let's start from the beginning. So when I first had my bleed, I was 10 weeks and 3 days, and that was November 12th, 2020. It was a Thursday. I remember I was getting my hair done. I was sitting at my hair appointment, and looking back, I do remember feeling like this weird, crampy feeling, but it was extremely mild. It really just felt like, when you're holding your bladder for a long time, like how your bladder kind of hurts. It felt like that. So it was down there in that area. And I was only 10 weeks and 3 days, so of course, I wasn't running to the bathroom like you are in 3rd trimester. After I left the salon, I had a taste for some Sonic ice cream. I wanted a Blizzard, so I headed there, and then I ate my Blizzard on my way home in the car. And I remember feeling like this discharge. So I thought it was just like, some regular old discharge, but I felt something coming from that area. It was like watery and it just kept coming out. I do remember feeling that. So I'm on the phone with my husband at the time, and I'm telling him, okay, like when I get back to the house, babe, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna run to the bathroom. I'll be right back. So I put the phone down and I go to the bathroom, and I see my underwear and I see blood. It's there's a lot of blood in my underwear, TMI. And then I look down in the toilet and the whole toilet bowl is filled with dark red blood. So my first initial thought was, not again. And I just started like crying, because, just a little bit of backstory. A few months prior, mind you, this is November and I'm 10 weeks pregnant. A few months prior in June, which is kind of ironic, and I'll get to that later, I actually had a pregnancy loss at 7 weeks. And that's a completely different story. But, having had that pregnancy loss and then to be bleeding again was devastating at the time. And at the moment, I felt like it was happening again. So, to continue along with the story, I got back on the phone with my husband. I told him what happened, and he told me to go to the hospital. which I did, and he was at work at the time, so he said he would meet me there. So I put on a pad, went to the hospital, and when I tell you, it was like the longest wait, literally, it didn't feel like it was the longest wait, it was a long wait for some reason that day. And it usually is a quick visit to the hospital, like I'm never waiting too long. But that day it was like 2.5, 3 hours in the waiting room. And my husband, I think he came like, when I was there, like an hour and a half already. And we were waiting to be called for a room. And I felt like they weren't putting enough, like it wasn't on their high list of importance at the hospital, because I told them I wasn't having any pain. Like they asked all the questions, your pain from a level of 1 to 10, how much pain are you in? And I wasn't in pain. Nothing was hurting me. I was just bleeding a lot, and I'm pregnant. So to me, that is urgent AF, okay? I'll skip all of that. So basically it was a long wait in the waiting room. We finally got called like 2.5, 3 hours later, like I mentioned, and then we had to wait again. So there's testing that has to be done. They're checking your blood pressure, all the basic stuff, taking your blood, and then eventually I had to go in for an ultrasound. And I get to the ultrasound and I'm nervous because I don't know if I'm not gonna hear anything. I don't know what the ultrasound tech is gonna see on that screen at all. And I'm praying that they see something. I'm praying for a heartbeat, all that stuff. Like so many thoughts are going through my mind at this time. And so I go inside the room. I'm by myself because my husband had to wait in the room that they keep you in. And so I'm getting checked. The ultrasound tech is very matter of fact, like, okay, take off your bottom, blah, blah. I was so early that she did both, but they had to do like a transvaginal ultrasound first, and then she did the over the stomach. So they did that, and I remember trying to like peek at the screen because they try to turn it away from you a little bit. So I'm just listening for anything, and I'm trying to peek at the screen to see if I could see anything, like a little flutter or something. And lo and behold, like I hear when she checks the heartbeat with the Doppler on the machine, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's a heartbeat. So I'm thinking this to myself, like there's a heartbeat, like oh my gosh, I still have a baby. So I ask her, because you're not supposed to ask them questions. They always tell you that you have to wait for the doctor or like the nurse practitioner to come in and give you the information or whatever. So she answers me, and I said, what's the heartbeat at? And she says 169. So I'm like, oh my God, that's like a really strong heartbeat, no? Like, mind you, I'm a first-time mom. This is like my first time getting along in this pregnancy this far, like, at 10 weeks and 3 days. And so I don't really know what's a strong heartbeat or not. If you hear my daughter, I'm so sorry. She's upstairs. But so when I heard 169, I'm like, that's a strong heartbeat, right? Like, this sounds like it's good. I felt like, kind of relieved a little bit in that moment, because she was just so serious. Like her face really wasn't giving me anything else. So yeah, I went along with that. She checked for some other things, which is what I found out later was a subchorionic hematoma. I found out, sorry, that some kids are running by the window. What the heck? So I found out it was a subchorionic hematoma later on. And I was wheeled back to the room and it was more waiting. We were so hungry at this point, like starving, waiting for somebody to come and give us, some information, a diagnosis, you know what I mean? So, long story short, fast forward, a nurse practitioner comes in and she asks me a series of questions about like previous pregnancies and just a bunch of things that I really can't remember at this time, but it's all on my blog. I wrote a blog post about it. And she came back and she told me that I've been diagnosed with a subchorionic hematoma. So I had a hemorrhage. And at that moment, I felt relief because the first time that I was pregnant a few months prior to this, I was looking for any sign of hope that, I could just have an SEH and I was still pregnant. Like I was just having some early pregnancy bleeding, but obviously like that ended up being a pregnancy loss. So when she told me that it was a subchorionic hemorrhage, it's like I just took a breath, like, oh my gosh, I feel so relieved. I was like, yes, like it wasn't a miscarriage, thank you. Like, so I was really excited. And she even still in that moment told me and my husband that it was a 50-50 chance of, still being a pregnancy loss. But none of that mattered because I knew I was still pregnant. That's all that mattered to me. And I was going to focus on the positive. And I was going to see, the brighter side of, I was going to see my outcome the way I wanted it, which was to still have a healthy baby and a safe pregnancy. And everything was going to be okay. So what she did was told us to, she put me on mild bed rest and pelvic rest, full pelvic rest, mild bed rest. And I remember I got home, I thanked God for a healthy baby. I thanked God for healing. I thanked God for just a healthy and safe pregnancy, period. And, I was on my bed rest. I drank tons of water, tons of orange juice and cranberry juice. I really didn't move a muscle unless it was to go to the bathroom or go and grab some more water. Like I really couldn't do much. I couldn't lift anything heavier than a gallon of milk. And I couldn't drive. So I bled over the next few weeks. Brown blood, which is a great sign when you have a subchorionic hematoma, to be bleeding brown blood and not dark red blood. But I've heard stories where women have continued to bleed red and everything has been okay. But when you're bleeding brown, that's an indication that you're healing. So I was really, really just, trying to take it easy over the next few weeks. Eventually, my brown bleeding stopped, and I didn't have any blood at all. I also forgot to mention I did have some blood clots prior to the brown bleeding. So you will see blood clots, and I've seen women or read that women have talked about having blood clots the size of their palm and seeing that in the toilet, and I did see those as well. So you're going to see blood clots in the toilet, and it's scary when you're bleeding and you're going through this and you're pregnant. It's typically not normal to be bleeding and pregnant, so it's very, very scary. Just try to stay focused on the positive. As much as that is so cliche, it's true, I'm gonna give my tips for how I handled and how I coped with the stress during that time. But yeah, so eventually I stopped bleeding brown and my blood totally went away. Like I wasn't bleeding at all. I didn't have to wear a panty line or a pad anymore. And I remember going to my 12-week pregnancy ultrasound at the maternal fetal medicine. And actually, let me rewind a little bit. So I remember going back to my midwife, my doctor, my regular doctor for, you know, my regular pregnancy checkups. And I told her that I really wanted a referral for maternal fetal medicine. And she really didn't want to give it to me, but I kind of had to advocate for myself and my baby. And I said, you know, it would, for my peace of mind, I need to go see a specialist. And so she eventually gave it to me, but I kind of had to, you know, push a little bit for it. So again, going back to 12 weeks, at my maternal fetal medicine appointment, so the specialist, I went in there, had my ultrasound, and I was asking the ultrasound tech questions. And I asked her, like, okay, well, I could see my baby on the screen, and that was the first time that I saw my baby like that big, you know? And when I tell you, I left that appointment so happy and overjoyed and so grateful, relieved, because in between checkups, when you have a subchorionic hematoma or an SEH, you're constantly worrying about, does my baby still have a heartbeat? How's my baby doing in there? You know, you really don't know. And it's like, it's on a by appointment basis that you really find out information and that you can breathe. So that whole time, like, so if your appointment is every 4 weeks, which it usually is, it's usually every 4 weeks, early on in your pregnancy, you're holding your breath and you're so worried. And so to see my baby growing and thriving, and the doctor is telling me that the baby is fine, I was like so ecstatic and so happy, so grateful. And I'll never forget that feeling. So yeah, I'm hearing the heartbeat is strong. She's grown, well, I didn't know that it was a girl at the time. I kind of felt like it was a girl, but so my baby was growing strong. The doctor did come in afterwards and tell me that my SEH shrunk to about 2.4 centimeters, because when I first got diagnosed, it was 3.2 centimeters, and my baby's sac was 3.6. So because the SEH was more than 50% the size of the sac, that's why they told me it was a 50-50 chance of me, you know, having a loss. But yes, I left my 12-week appointment feeling great. I continued to stay on bed rest. My husband was driving me to my doctor's appointments, so that was good. Fast forward to, like, I believe 18 to 24 weeks, my SEH, well, my 18-week appointment, that was my anatomy scan at the specialist, and they couldn't find any indications or anything of the SEH, so I think at this time it may have disappeared. By 24 weeks, it was completely gone. They were telling me they couldn't see any sign of it, so by 18 to 24 weeks, it was actually completely gone and healed, and they couldn't detect it on the ultrasound anymore. So I was pretty much good to go from there on. My baby was born June 4th of 2021. And that's why I said earlier in the video that it was pretty ironic that I had that pregnancy loss in June of 2020, and then to have my baby born in June of 2021 came full circle. She's happy and healthy. She's currently 9 months. And so I really hope that somebody is inspired by this video, that you're keeping hope alive. And that sounds really, really like deep. But I want you to stay positive. What I tried to do during that time was watch a lot of funny movies. I watched a lot of comedy. I wanted to laugh a lot. I wanted to keep myself in high spirits. I read the Bible a lot, and remember the promises that God has made to us. And every day I just kept thanking God, like, for a healthy baby and a healthy pregnancy. And I didn't look at negative stories about people's SCHs and those kind of outcomes. I didn't really want to put those things in my mind because I knew that I would kind of dwell on that. And so every time I saw, somebody writing like, if they wrote trigger warning above a post, I would scroll right past it. I don't even want to see it. I didn't want to put any of that in my mind. So my suggestion would be to just stay focused on the positive and keep yourself in high spirits, keep yourself happy, and still plan, for your pregnancy and for your baby to arrive. Do all those things that make you happy. Like, you can't ignore going to the bathroom and still seeing blood, having to change a pad, but it's not easy. I will say that it is a daily practice to stay positive, but you'll feel so much better, if you stay focused on the end goal that you actually want. And so, I hope that this story helped somebody. I hope that it keeps you in positive spirits and lets you know that, listen, regardless of what happens or what your body is telling you, you can have a positive outcome, and you will. And just keep speaking that over your life. And if you guys have any questions for me, please feel free to ask me in the comments. Follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is in the description box. And I hope that you stick around for more content and subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.